David.
Hi, David. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Kent.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Jeff.
We'll be right with you. I'm just getting the YouTube done and we will commence in a moment.
Yeah, while you're doing that, just to say I'm not at home or at office. I'm actually in a little dorp called Grayton in the Western Province.
Sorry,
For a few days.
Sorry, Kent has the floor. You're in a little dorp where?
In West, near Cape Town, about an hour and a half out. It's called Grayton.
To say I'm not at home or at office, I'm actually.
Why is that echoing? Why is
It's
that
repeating what you've just said.
I never
Yeah,
heard of,
why?
I never heard of Grayton. Okay. Are you on holiday or working?
Both.
That's pretty good.
Which area is it, Kent?
Fairly near Caledon, those areas.
Okay, let's get. Come on, man, I downloaded this. Why is it not
They
working?
still have the mineral springs at Caledon.
Yeah, they do. I haven't been there for a long time. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
David, Ken,
Hello, hello. I'm just trying to get the text up.
Rambam, hello, Rambam.
There we go. Okay, finally.
Very small text, Rabbi. Can you perhaps make
Is
it?
everybody experiencing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can on your screen, you can, well, I mean, you can make it larger.
I don't know. To
I'm
me,
looking-
it looks the same as always. So I don't know. I didn't do anything differently. I don't know what to.
I'm looking how to do it, but I don't see a magnifying.
Have you got a cell phone or a laptop or
No,
a desktop?
laptop. No, we'll manage.
You can
Okay,
make the
sorry
text
about that.
larger.
Actually, it's stuck. It's not moving. Let's try again. Let's try again. Ay. We have load shedding, but I'm very proud that my computer works since I put in an inverter,
Your UPS.
which is a game
Yeah.
changer.
I'll speak to you separately about that, Rabbi.
I don't know what's going on here. Now it's not letting me share for some reason. On top of being late.
It says that you've disabled the screen sharing, Rabbi.
I'm gonna start again.
Are you the administrator on yours? Are you the host? Are you, it show you as the host?
Who?
On the Zoom.
Something's not working here and I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what to do. I'll try one more thing. Bear with me, please. So you've been learning about the custodians and the degree of their liability, right?
Not by name, not by custodian's name. This is the first time that word's been mentioned.
Really? What did they call it before? Oh, I'm not.
David, we have been learning about this is effectively paid watchman or unpaid watchman.
Right.
Have you gone through the 4 custodians?
Unpaid watchman, family members. What did you ask?
Have you gone through the 4 custodians?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Now I've lost everything, including you.
We can see you.
You
Welcome
guys
to
see,
Zoom.
you guys see me?
I've
Yeah.
been lost for a long time.
You haven't seen me.
We can
Welcome
see
to
you.
Zoom.
The fan on your ceiling, remember?
We can see you.
No, it's not yours.
Yes.
You can't see me?
Yes, we
No, I
can.
see you, yeah.
I don't see you.
Perhaps just tell us, Rabbi. Tell us the story.
I mean, I have the text. I just not cooperating. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on.
We can get the text download ourselves.
If you can do that, then please do.
All right. Okay.
I don't know.
Rabbi,
Non-cooperative.
please continue. We can all get the text.
Oh, I've got it in my phone in front of me.
Okay. All right. At least I got something here. Okay. Chapter 5. Misha ifkidu etzlemoy shalanim. Money designated to given to the poor or to be used for the redemption of captives, meaning communal money, was given to a person and he was negligent in guarding it and it was stolen from him. So even though normally, so obviously he wasn't being paid, because if he was paid, then he'd be liable. But if he's not paid, even though he was negligent, he's not liable. Why? An interesting logical explanation. The verse in Exodus says, the man gives money or articles to his colleague to watch. The wording implies that obligations determined by the verse apply when the money or the article was given to watch, but not when it was given to divide among the poor. This decision is rendered because there is no one to claim the money as his own. In other words, if I give you money to look after, you're looking after my money and you're obligated to me. But if you were given sort of communal money that's going to go to the poor or to a particular charitable cause, as good as the cause may be, there isn't a particular claimant here. It's a good cause, but there's no person, there's no individual, there's no particular specific claimant. And according to the verse that he was given to watch it, to guard it, he wasn't really given to watch here. He was given to divide it to the poor. And before he got around to dividing it, it was stolen because he was negligent. He's not going to be liable. Even if thieves attacked him and he saved himself by giving them the money designated for the redemption of captives, he's still not liable, because there's no greater redemption of captives than this. He himself was going to be a captive. He himself was being attacked by tzotzis, by robbers, and he saved his life by giving away his money. So he's used it for a good cause. He's redeemed the captive. When does this apply? When the money was not entrusted in for the sake of the poor people or a particular place or a designated group of captives. If it was general for the cause, for a fund, but not for a specific group of people who are in need of it. If it was given to him for a specific group of people that are waiting to be redeemed or waiting for charity, then he's going to be liable. The money, if however the money was there for a particular group of poor people captive and thus set aside for them, it is considered to be money that people can claim. Now there are claimants. And then the watchman will have to pay if he was negligent, or he'll have to take an oath that he was not negligent, as is required by all watchmen. So, have you learned that? That if something is lost or stolen, he takes an oath and he's exempt from paying. That's the unpaid custodian, the Shoy Mechinam. So here, if there are claimants, then he'll either have to take an oath that he was not negligent, or he'll have to pay them. But when it was just given to a fund rather than to individuals, then he is not liable because there are no claimants. 2. Amafkid Eisel Chavere Moment. Guy entrusted money or valuables to a colleague. Ganovim came, attacked him, and he gives them the entrusted article that he was looking after before offering any of his own property. He offers the property, the kalim, the stuff that he's watching for somebody else. He offers it to the thieves to save himself. So now it depends. If the person has the reputation of being wealthy, he will be liable, because we would presume that the thieves came because of the watchman. Thus, he is saving himself with money belonging to a colleague. But if the watchman does not have the reputation of being wealthy, we presume the thieves came only because of the entrusted article. So that's what they came for. So we can't blame him for giving them to him, because that's what they wanted. So if the watchman himself is wealthy and he gives the thing he's watching for the other person instead of his own, he has to pay. If the watchman himself is not wealthy, then they're obviously the thieves are coming to steal what he's watching of the other guys, and therefore he's not going to be liable. 3. If a person entrusts articles or fruit to a colleague, and thieves come and steal it in his presence, and he remains silent, he may be held liable. If people could have come and rescued, had he called out, then he will be considered negligent for remaining silent, and he'll have to pay. So there's a whole lot of halachas about this. Maybe you'll learn it. If you haven't yet, you'll still learn it in subsequent chapters. If 20 guys with AK-47s come and say, give us that thing you're watching, what must he do? Clearly, he mustn't sacrifice his life for this, you know? And that's beyond his control. But if one guy comes, and if he screamed and shouted, the guy might run away, or other people might come to help him. and there are people around who might help him, then we will consider him guilty for not shouting and not making a ruckus and not attempting to stop the thief. So it'll all depend on the circumstances. 4. This is an interesting one. 2 people entrusted money to a third guy. One gave him $100, the other gave him $200. Then they come to collect the articles they entrusted to him, and Gibakuk, they both say they gave him 200. Now he only got 300, 200 from one and 100 from the other. Now when it comes to deliver, they each claim they're the one who gave the 200. Now somebody's lying here, obviously. But the problem is, the problem is that the watchman doesn't remember who gave him 200 and who gave him 100. So he is irresponsible and negligent to his own detriment. He should have written down that Chaim gave him 200 and Yankel gave him 100. And now Chaim and Yankel both come and say he has to give them 200, and he can't remember who it was. So he has himself to blame. So each of the claimants make an oath that he gave 200, and if they're both prepared to take that oath, he has to pay each of them 200. So he's going to lose 100 on the deal. But he's losing 100, even though he's trying to do a mitzvah, he's doing a good deed, he's losing 100. Why? Because of his foolishness and irresponsibility or lack of organization in writing down who gave him what. Therefore, if the 2 people together brought him 300 zuz in a single envelope, so Chaim and Yankel bring David, the watchman, an envelope. Inside is 300. One says 200 is from me, the other says 100 from him. And now they come back to claim, and each one says he's owed 200. Now he's not going to be liable, even though he still is foolish for not writing down who gave what. Why? Because he figured these guys must be good friends. They're giving me their money in one envelope. They obviously trust each other. So I have to worry that they're going to come lie now. If they trust each other, I assume that I have no problem over here. So we will not consider him negligent for not remembering. So he has to give each one the 100, and the extra 100, what do you think? He should go buy some whiskey? What do you think? The extra 100 remains in his possession forever, or until one of them acknowledges the other's claim, until one of them owns up that it wasn't him. So each one gets 100, and somebody's going to lose out, but not the watchman. Okay. Similar laws apply if 2 people entrusted one watchman with 2 utensils, one large and one small. Then they come to collect. Each one says the big one is mine. Big one is obviously more valuable. So again, the same thing. They both take an oath, and he has to give each one a big one. Obviously, he only has one big one, so he gives one big one to one, and the value of a big one, the monetary value, to the other. And he's going to be left with the small one. So again, he incurs a loss. Why? Because of his own foolishness and lack of organization to write down who gave what. However, if they both came together and they brought the 2 utensils in a single big container, which had one large utensil and one small utensil, again, he's not going to be liable, because he says, you guys trusted each other, you came with one parcel, I have to worry that you're not going to go lie and try and cheat each other. So he would then give he would then give the smaller utensil to one and the worth of the smaller utensil to the other, and he keeps the big one until one of them owns up. Similar laws apply if only one article was entrusted and two people claim it as their own. And the watchman says, well, one of you gave it to me, but I can't remember which one. Again, it's his foolishness and his lack of responsibility, and he has to pay both of them. Likewise, if two people give an animal to a shepherd, each one gives an animal, one of the animal dies, and he doesn't know which one died. He doesn't know whose is who. And they both claim, no, this animal is alive. So again, it's his own fault. And he has to pay them both an animal, so he loses out. However, if they place the animals in his herd without informing him, then it's not his responsibility. He can place one animal in front of these two guys, and he can go home and let them fight it out. 5. When a person entrusts produce to a colleague, the watchman should not mix it together with his own produce. Because what happens is, when you leave produce over a certain period, there's going to be a certain amount of spoilage. Now, if I mix it together with mine, how do I know how much of yours spoiled and how much of mine spoiled? They don't always spoil at the same rate. Maybe mine was a better quality, maybe yours was a better quality. So therefore, you should keep each one separate. If you go and mix it, then you have yourself to blame. So if the watchman transgressed and he mixed the other guy's produce with his own produce, he then has to calculate the quantity of produce entrusted to him. Another thunderstorm here in Johannesburg. It's the season. Thank God it didn't blow out my computer yet. He should calculate the quantity of produce entrusted to him, see how much produce was lacking from the entire amount, and estimate the amount of loss suffered by the entrusted produce, and return that amount to the owner after he takes an oath that he wasn't negligent. Sure. I don't know if you can see, it's coming down heavy and hailing. Okay. We won't say Hail Mary, right? Okay. We carry on, and we are on, the middle of 5. If he's not, if the watchman made use of the produce, the combined produce of his own and what he was watching, and he used it, he's entitled to use his own. He's not entitled to use the other guy's. So, and now he doesn't know how much he used. He should subtract the standard norm before returning the produce. And he gives amounts and percentages for each type of crop, for rice, for barley, for millet, buckwheat, flax seeds, unshelled rice. He gives different amounts that he has to subtract. And this is, I think, from what I can gather, this is sort of the average amounts. He works out the average amounts of spoilage that would normally happen. And he can deduct that and has to give the rest back to the owner. When does this apply? When the original measurement of the produce was made at harvest time, and it was returned during harvest time. However, if he returns the produce in the rainy season, he should not make any deduction because of spoilage, because in the rainy season it grows and it becomes flush, and there's no spoilage. On the contrary, there's more than usual, more than you start with. Similarly, a watchman may deduct 1/6 of a quantity of wine entrusted to him, and 3 lugan for every 100 lugan of oil, because a certain amount of the liquid absorbs into the vessels in which they are whole. If, however, the oil was refined, he should not make any deduction for dregs, because then there's no dregs if it's refined. If the containers are old, he should not make a deduction either, as it's already been absorbed in previous years. 6. When a person entrusts a produce that has not been measured to a watchman, and he mixes it with his own produce without measuring, the watchman is now negligent. How's he going to know how much to give back? He never made a calculation of how much he got in the first place. So if the owner comes and says, I gave you so many and so many kilos or whatever, or tons, and the watchman says, I don't know how much you gave me, then the watchman is going to be liable to give back whatever the owner claims, because he can't take an oath. How can he take an oath? He says he doesn't know. What are you going to take an oath? I don't know. That's not an oath. An oath is that I don't owe you as much as you claim, but he doesn't know, and maybe he does. He himself says he might. He just doesn't know. Well, it's his own fault for not measuring. My teachers, Rav Yosef Halevi, and his teacher ruled in this manner. Rav Yosef Halevi is the Rimi Gosh, and his teacher was Rabbeinu Yitzchok Alfasi, also known as the Rif. These are the people who Rambam drew much wisdom from in compiling his work. Similarly, when a watchman is obligated to pay but doesn't know how much he's obligated to pay, if the owner says it was worth so much and so much, they can collect that amount that they claim without the watchman taking an oath, because he doesn't know. How can he take an oath? This applies provided the owner claims a sum or an object that he can be presumed to possess. The watchman may have a ban of ostracism issued against anyone who expropriates more than his due, however. So now the watchman was a fool and didn't measure how much he's getting. And now the owner comes and he makes an exorbitant claim. He says, I gave you a ton of wheat. And the watchman knows this is a lie. This is an exorbitant lie. But he can't prove it because he didn't count. So he can have a ban of ostracism issued against this person for being dishonest. A ban of ostracism, I'm reading one of my notes here. A ban of ostracism is issued without mentioning the plaintiff's name, applying to anyone who takes more than his due. The rabbis instituted this as a deterrent, hoping it would intimidate the plaintiff and restrain him from issuing false claims. So although he's not named personally in this sort of pronouncement issued by the Beth Din, hopefully it will intimidate him sufficiently not to be a blatant liar and claim much more than he is deserving. What is the rationale? Consider, the owner entrusted a purse full of gold coins to the watchman, and the watchman was negligent because he didn't count how much. The owner says, I gave you 200 dinars. The watchman says, well, there were definitely some dinars there, but I don't know how much. So he's being claimed for 200. The watchman admits a portion of the claim, but doesn't know how much, so he can't dispute it. So he is obligated to take an oath, but he cannot take an oath because he doesn't know how much there was. So he's going to be required to pay. But if he feels that the guy is really cheating him, that he's coming up with some exorbitant amount, which is really not realistic, he can go to the Beth Din for some redress. 7. A person's father died and left him a closed sack with stuff inside. The heir entrusted it to a colleague for safekeeping. The colleague was negligent and it was destroyed. Fire, flood, whatever. The depositor says, I don't know what was in there. Maybe there were pearls in there. Maybe there were diamonds. The watchman says, I don't know what was in there. I don't know how much I owe you. Maybe it was filled with pieces of glass, with rubbish. Maybe it was your father's old letters, old photographs, which have no value. So the Rambam says, I maintain that the ruling in this instance is that as our sages required, the watchman should take an oath that the entrusted object is no longer in his domain, that he didn't steal it. He should include in his oath that he does not know whether it was worth more than a specific amount. He must then pay the amount that he admits that it was worth. Similar laws apply in all analogous situations. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to work out what it was worth here, because nobody even knows, not the claimant, not the watchman. Nobody can say what it was worth. They don't know what was in there. They're saying, maybe it was pearls. He says, maybe it was rubbish. Nobody knows. I mean, so I guess we'll just have to come up with an amount and give him an amount. So there was once a story of such an incident. A person entrusted a closed sack to his colleague. The latter was negligent in its care and it got lost. The owner said it had gold and jewelry and pearls. The watchman says, I don't know what it had. Maybe it had scrap metal or sand. Our sages ruled the owner of the entrusted article may take an oath supporting his claim and then collect the sum he claims, provided he claims a sum that he could presume to have entrusted to him. So if the owner claims that he knows what was in there, and he says there was gold and jewelry, the other guy says, I don't know, I never looked. So the watchman is negligent. And the owner can take an oath that what was in there and collect. However, if he makes a claim of a lot of money, the Beth Din is obliged to look into his financial status and see if that is a reasonable amount that he could claim. If he's a poor man and suddenly he's making this outlandish claim for millions, they're not going to go along with it. It has to be something that is relative to his financial situation. The final paragraph, why must the owner of the entrusted article take an oath in this instance? Because in this instance, the watchman is not obligated to take an oath, because how can he take an oath? He doesn't know. Even if the watchman will admit and say, I'm certain that it contains scrap metal, and the owner claims it contained pearls, the watchman could take a shvuas heses, which we discussed last week, and be freed of obligation. This resembles a case where the plaintiff demands wheat, the defendant admits owing barley. The same laws apply in all analogous situations. The fundamental principle on which these laws revolve will be explained in Hilchas Toyin Benitten, which is a different chapter. And so when can a person, when does the watchman take an oath? If he makes a partial confession, right? Where's the $1,000 I owe you? What 1,000? It was only 500. Then the watchman has to take an oath that he only owed him 500. Here, the watchman cannot take an oath. Why? The guy says, I gave you pearls or gold, and he says, you gave me scrap metal. So he does not admit anything. That's called, he claims wheat and he admits barley. Barley and wheat are two different species. So he's not admitting to any wheat. So he's not called a moide b'mitzvahs. He's not called a partial confessor. He doesn't admit to any of the wheat. He says, I don't owe you any wheat. So he doesn't take an oath in this case. So, okay. We don't have the share screen, so we can't do the quiz. Yes, questions?
Is there another question? The question would be, why would someone pay a watchman for a sack of scrap, to watch over a sack of scrap?
Scrap metal must be worth a lot. Scrap metal could be worth a lot of money. Do you know how much they're stealing all the copper cables in South Africa? They're going to scrap metal merchants and getting paid for it.
Yeah. I guess so.
Obviously, I mean, it's ridiculous. I once had a couple of years ago, they stole all the taps in my garden.
Yeah.
They messed. I had to call the plumber. He had to dig for a whole day and a half a night to fix. There was leaking all over.
No.
My domestic goes to her sink and she finds no taps to turn the water on. They stole it was all brass. It's an old house. It was all brass taps. They stole all the brass. My plumber says they get 50 cents for a tap, or 2 rand for a tap. You know, it's bupkis. But meanwhile, they made a churban in my house, and it cost me a lot of money to fix. If they would have asked me for a donation, I would have given them 20 rand and saved myself thousands. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your patience and
Thank you.
accommodating my timing. Sei gesund. I hope to see you next week.
Do the same.